It's finally double game week 25, and in today's transfer targets video, we're going to help you identify the best players from each team you should be looking to buy this game week. Before we dive into today's action-packed video, I just want to say that we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and if you want to help me hit that goal, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But diving in, we're going to look at the fixtures first. If you have been living under a rock or maybe just been in a coma, you're coming back to your FPL team, you've seen that it's double game week 25, you're not sure who's doubling, not sure which teams to be targeting. Well, these are the 4 teams that will be doubling this game week: Brentford, Liverpool, Luton, and Manchester City. Manchester City and Liverpool are going to be the 2 teams that we want to be invested in, loading the money into, maybe if you're on a free hit or if you're looking for potential players to go and buy this week. Those are the 2 teams you should be looking at. There are some options for Brentford and Luton, as we will be discussing. Luton, I think, are a little bit more favourable to invest in with their double game week coming up in game week 28, but Brentford also play in blank game week 29, so both quite, have some favourable things going for them. Obviously, on paper, though, the Liverpool and the City ones are the best. The Luton and the Brentford ones are pretty honky, to say the least. The first team we're going to take a look at is, of course, Manchester City. Another strong performance from them, a 2-0 win. Haaland with a brace on his return to the Etihad. KDB with an assist, and Ake picking up another assist. I've outlined 5 potential assets you might want to buy or maybe sell as well. Obviously, Alvarez probably being the one that you're going to sell, but we're going to have a run through of all of them, the pros, the cons, and which ones you should be buying. Phil Foden obviously did blank this week, but last week picked up a hat-trick against Brentford. I can see him doing extremely well over this double game week as well. He is super impressive at the moment, definitely passing the eye test for me. 3 goals, 3 assists. I bought him into my team for this week for a minus for Anthony Gordon. That hasn't worked out amazingly, but hopefully he can redeem himself with a very strong double. And the reason I like investing in City assets, they also play in blank game week 26, play Bournemouth away as well, which is a pretty good fixture. The only thing to note with City assets is they do play Copenhagen around like the doubles. So they're playing Copenhagen this midweek, then obviously play the double game week, then going into the Bournemouth game as well, they will be playing the second leg of that Champions League tie against Copenhagen. So there's lots of games sandwiched in there. So obviously we are going to see some Pep roulette. We saw that today. Obviously KDB on the bench, a little bit disappointing, but he showed his quality, showed what he's capable of, unlocked that defense, and did pick up an assist for Erling Haaland. But I definitely think Phil Foden would be up there as one of the top assets I would be going out and trying to buy this game week. Obviously played a lot of the game though, so maybe going to miss out on Tuesday. Maybe that's a positive sign. Maybe he then goes and plays at the weekend. That is fingers crossed. Obviously we'll have to see how that kind of Champions League lineup is all determined, and I definitely think with these double game week players, it is worth waiting with European football being this week just to make sure everybody does get through these games and make sure they are fit and available. Like we spoke about, KDB come off the bench today. He's been super impressive from his return from injury. As you can see, these are his stats since returning from injury. 1 goal, 4 assists for him. Good expected data as well. 2 of those games as well have been off the bench. The Newcastle game where he did kind of make his grand return, and obviously today against Everton. But like I said, picking up plenty of attacking returns, ticking on very nicely as KDB as well. Again, there probably is going to be some rotation around him, so that is a little bit of a concern, but definitely still a player I would be looking to try and get into my team. Very, very happy to have him in mind because at the moment he seems very consistent and Pep knows that he can rely on this man. The next man we're going to talk about is Erling Haaland. Now, obviously, he showed his capabilities today. His ownership is only going to increase and rise, and I feel he has to be a player you have to go and get in your teams. If you've already got maybe Foden, KDB, and Alvarez, I would be sacrificing Alvarez to go and get Haaland in the team. I expect probably another 0.2 million in price rises. His ownership's probably going to get close to around, I reckon, 80% again, because my God, it was a good performance from him today. Only had 2 shots, but still managed to put them both away. Very clinical. That's what we've come to expect from him over the past few seasons as well. And I imagine for a lot of managers, he will be getting that triple captain armband off the back of today's performance. So his effective ownership probably going to be close to something like 200%. And I feel if he absolutely goes off and you don't have him captain, or at least triple captain, he could be absolutely detrimental to your rank and potentially finish you off for the season. Maybe your mates in your mini league as well. They've got Haaland. They're looking at that TC. He would be my top transfer priority if I didn't already own him. Moving on to the other side of the striker, it is Alvarez now. For me personally, Alvarez did play today, but again, what is that going to mean with all these players now back? You know, like we spoke about the Champions League football, the midweek game, obviously the second one for Manchester City. I think it probably could mean the end of Alvarez in our team. Still quite a highly owned asset. I think if I wanted to go for free City assets, it would be Foden, it would be KDB, and it would be Haaland. Those are my top three. I don't really think anyone outside of that is worth investing in. If I had Alvarez, I would probably sacrifice him for one of the other players. I just think they're that good, and I think Alvarez's minutes potentially could be limited. But let me know if you do have Alvarez, what are your plans and what are you going to do for him? And then the final one is Nathan Ake. Now, this might feel a little bit knee-jerky. You might have seen him obviously pick up the assist today and be like, well, that's the only reason he's put him in here. Actually, he's been very consistent playing since, I think, picking up an injury in December. He's played 6 or 7 games in a row now, completing the full 90 minutes, so does seem to be a very settled player at the moment. But this is exactly the same situation we thought about with Kyle Walker. So for me, overall, I think City defenders are a little bit like, don't touch them. I would rather go for the higher kind of more attacking premium assets in Foden, in KDB, and in Haaland over going for one of the defenders. I know a lot of people have Walker. He was benched today, but then came off in the 57th minute, so potentially denying them some points on the bench. And then maybe Ake could be the same situation. Maybe he plays midweek, and then maybe he is benched. But let me know what City assets have caught your eye in today's video and which ones you're thinking about investing in for double game week 25. Brentford are the next team we're going to take a look at. Now, for me personally, I don't think I'm going to be investing in any Brentford assets. I've outlined 3 here. There are obviously some other ones. Ethan Pinnock, Ben Mee, maybe Flecken as well. There are some other assets out there. But for these are probably the top 3 that I potentially would be looking to go and get if I was thinking about bringing any Brentford assets in. Like I did say at the top of the video, they do have some positives with potentially going for them. They play in blank game week 26. They also play in blank game week 29. So maybe if you've used up your free hit, you've used up your wild card, or you're just looking to stretch your team out, then maybe 1 or 2 of these players could potentially become an option. You get the double this week, you get a game next week, and you get a game in game week 29. So maybe they do offer something that a lot of people potentially aren't looking at, and that could be your route to maybe withhold your free hit, or maybe if you haven't got it, maybe just keeps you alive, keeps you in the game, gives you as many players as possible for those blank game weeks, because they are a little bit more difficult to navigate than most people think. Obviously, we're going to start off with Ivan Toney. Since coming back from his ban, I think he has been stupendous. 3 goals, 1 assist for him. As you can see, good underlying data as well. He's on penalties. He takes some free kicks as well for Brentford. If there was any Brentford player I wanted to bring in, it probably would be Ivan Toney. For me personally, he's the only one I'm really looking at. Like I said, since his return, he is the main man. He is the focal point of that Brentford attack as well. Since returning as well, he has lifted that whole side's performance and spirit as well. And you can definitely see he is playing for a big summer move. Obviously, his contract will have a year left in the summer. We can see the performances he's putting in on the field. Definitely trying to get that move to a top 6 club. Get that bag, get that money, as they say as well. So he probably would be the only one. The other 2 on this list, Neil Maupay, he's been in quite good form. 4.9 million. I thought I'd include him. Maybe if you've got someone like Cameron Archer, you just maybe fancy upgrading, getting a player for that blank game week and blank game week 29, and maybe getting a double out of him. Neil Maupay could be that man. 4.9 million. He is a little bit of a troll, so it wouldn't surprise me to see, you know, people bring him in, then he gets red carded, or maybe scores an own goal or something like that. He is just a troll. He is a football troll. But yeah, I don't think there's anything too deep in that one, to be honest. Obviously been in quite good form, as I said, but again, I still probably would avoid going for Neil Maupay. Moving on to our final player, and it is going to be Serge Reguilon. Picked up an assist today, and I think he potentially could be a cheap defender if you did need someone for 26 and 29 and fancied a little bit of a doubler. Maybe you've just got a dud 4 million defender. Maybe if Charlie Taylor, we don't get positive news about his injury, maybe Reguilon could be that replacement. Obviously, the double isn't great, and you wouldn't expect Brentford to keep a clean sheet in both. But in previous seasons, they have been one of the top defences. This year, it's just not quite working out the same. I think with Reguilon, though, you do get that little bit of attacking threat as well. We've seen it at Manchester United at times earlier in this season, and we've seen it at Spurs in the past as well. So could offer himself up as a good, cheap defensive option. But like I said, the only real consideration for me probably would be Ivan Toney. Liverpool are the next team we're going to take a look at for double game week 25. We've got 5 assets here, as I again believe Liverpool and Manchester City are the better of the 2 teams to be invested in. Wasting no time, diving straight in. Diego Jota, another goal for him today. 4 goals, 3 assists. And with Salah not even in team training yet, I do think Diego Jota's place is kind of cemented within that Liverpool lineup, unless we get some maybe big breaking developments that Salah's currently back in team training. I think that would be the only thing to potentially throw a Jota transfer into kind of jeopardy. He's the top transfer target for me this week, someone I'm looking at. If you don't own him, I think it's probably worth getting in. 18.3% ownership as well. There's still plenty of room to get some really big point swings out of him. I imagine that is going to increase massively, as is his price over the next few weeks, because he can't stop scoring, picking up goals for fun, picking up assists as well. The data is pretty good to go with that. And if Salah is out for double game week 25, I definitely think he is a smart pick. Obviously, the Liverpool options, though, do have a downside. They do blank in game week 26, so you do have to potentially navigate that. Maybe if you've got some Spurs assets, some Chelsea assets as well, it is going to be a little bit more difficult to potentially navigate that. So you might be forced into using your free hit if you do kind of load up on the Liverpool assets. So just have that in mind before bringing them up in your team for double game week 25. Darwin, he did eventually get his goal this week. I know a lot of FPL managers were frustrated with him. As you can see, the underlying data that he's putting up is ridiculous. I'm not even making that up. That is over the past 5 game weeks. His expected goal involvement is 6.22. I've never ever seen a player have that high data over a past 5 game weeks, and that little amount of goals as well. Did get his goal, like I said, though, today eventually. Did take some time. This is probably why he's at 16.6% ownership. If you watch him, if you look at the data, everything kind of adds up and it should be leading to goals, but it just isn't quite working for him. But like I've said in the past few weeks, I think he has one of the best kind of highest ceilings, if that's a way of describing it, where he could eventually go off. But I feel FPL content creators have been saying that for a long time, and we're still waiting to see that from Darwin Núñez. Maybe this double game week could be the week. Brentford away and then Luton at home could be very, very tasty indeed. Sheffield United managed to score 3 past Luton today, so potentially could be a little bit of a cheeky option. Maybe Darwin's going to exploit them at home. Maybe, like I said though, European football as well coming up for Liverpool. Is that correct? I don't think that actually is correct because they won the group, so they're not. They've already progressed. Ignore that. No midweek football for Liverpool this week. But yeah, Darwin, I think, again, another very strong shout. Moving on to the next man, it is a guy I have in my own team. It is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He did go off at half-time, and now I'm not currently recommending him. We need to see what Jurgen Klopp says about it. I was told, and kind of looking on Twitter, that it was a precautionary substitution. Obviously, did pick up the assist. Would have been nice for him to actually see out 60 minutes for once. But as you can see, the points over the past 5 game weeks, really frustrating. 6 points for him. As you can imagine, this is the run that I've owned him for. Really happy about that, so thank you, Trent, for that one. Like I said, a lot of people might be looking to bring him in. I probably would say, for now, just hold on. He did leave the game at half-time. Make sure we're getting updates from Jurgen Klopp in his press conferences before bringing in Trent Alexander-Arnold. If it is negative, then do look to remove him, because they do blank next week. He's eating a lot of budget, and like I said, double game weeks, I think you're able to use your -4s and your -8s. You know, there's potential to get that return with there being 2 game weeks. Moving on to a man who did score. I could put some little doubts on him last week. I said Diaz wasn't an option. I'm still standing by my point. I think I would prefer to have Jota or Darwin from the Liverpool lineup. If you can't get to them, maybe with price increases over the next few weeks, maybe Diaz does offer himself up as an option. Does have that left-hand side on lock. Did pick up a goal today. 31 points. It's not the worst in the world. He is actually outscoring Darwin. But for me personally, I just think Jota's clear, so I probably would avoid Diaz. And then we've got Virgil van Dijk. I think Robertson also fits into this category as the other defenders for Liverpool. They are quite pricey, and Liverpool defensively, I can't really comment. Alisson as well, maybe as an option if he recovers from the flu, but for me personally, I'm not really too keen on touching any of them. I know Robertson had an impressive performance today coming back from injury, but will he play both games in such short congestion? Is that the right way of saying it? Yeah, we'll go with that. But obviously the games are super, super tight at the moment. Is Andy Robertson going to be able to see out both games? Probably not. Is Virgil van Dijk? More so. But that's, again, for me, they're a little bit steep for what they're offering. Not too much in terms of attacking data. They are solitary going to be there just for the clean sheets. And finishing up today's video, we are going to talk about the final team. It is, of course, Luton. Now, a lot of us did jump on Luton assets in game week 24. I was one of those managers, bought in Doherty. I'm still pretty happy with the outcome. I know he wasn't great, but I watched large parts of the Luton game today and he was very impressive. And I think with the doubles coming up and some other doubles as well in 28 and potentially playing in blank game week 29, the move could be beneficial. Now, I'm putting the word could there, but I think the big point to take away from Luton is we're not always expecting these players to do amazing, but they could do over the double or the other game weeks that are coming up for them. But I think FPL Harry kind of summed it up quite nicely on Twitter. These players are like enabling us to bring in better players. For him, it enabled him to bring in, you know, the likes of Darwin and Jota. For me, I think if I was on Trent and maybe we find out he's injured, Doherty is a replacement, could free up a lot of money. That potentially could get you a Haaland, a Foden, a Jota, a KDB. I think we've got to change our mindset a little bit. Look outside of what this asset is. It's not the best, but if we look outside of it, what does it enable us to do? It gets us a double game week player and it potentially gets us a player that could, you know, massively smash this week out the park. Maybe you're a couple mil short of KDB. He could absolutely romp it. Maybe it allows you to go get Haaland. Maybe Diego Jota. This is what we got to be thinking with these other teams like the Lutons. It is a double. It's a bit of a crap double, but, you know, maybe putting some funds in here, freeing up a little bit of budget. Like I said, for the likes of Trent, he's probably the #1 casualty for me this week. So, yeah. Let's start off. Obviously, we have Doherty. Like I said, eye test wise, I thought he looked all right today, whipping in a lot of crosses on both sides of the corners as well. So I do think he will continue to pick up assists, as you can see over the past 5 game weeks. 4 assists for him. I do think the more and more assists he picks up, good stuff, because it's going to happen. Like I said, watching the game today, just needs to take a little bit off his crosses and they would be absolutely delicious. Carlton Morris is in there, hunting like a gem as well, looking for those crosses every single time. The way that Luton were playing today, the wing-backs pushed extremely high up and wide, so I do imagine they will get some opportunities. Even outside of open play, maybe a corner routine. Doherty with a little bit of an assist could be a potential option. Ross Barkley's in here because I think, for me personally, he is a great enabler at 5 million. If you want to free up a little bit of money, maybe it allows you to go get Darwin or Haaland. I think Ross Barkley's a great enabler. Doubles coming up for him. Obviously the blank in game week 26 that you will have to navigate, but the double in 25 and the double in 28, just a real great enabler for me at 5 million. Having the kind of season or the redemption arc this season, which is really good for him. Not probably the player of the season like Paul Merson has outlined, but he's still having a pretty good year. Moving on to my final Luton player, and it is going to be Carlton Morris. I think Morris season V2 could be back for game week 28, but he could be cooking over the next few weeks as well. 3 goals, 2 assists for him. The reason I like him, he is at a rock bottom price of 5 million. He's on penalties as well, which is a great thing to have in your team. I think he's got that slight edge over Adebayo with the penalties because it is such a big kind of asset in the game. I think he scored 6 or 7 Premier League goals. 3 of those have been from the spot as well. So it just shows how important penalties are in the modern game. And Carlton Morris, deadly from the spot and definitely a potential asset you should be considering. Like I said, a nice enabler up front. Maybe it allows you to bring other players in. So Carlton Morris could be one of those players. Let me know what you think about all the double game week players in the comments section. Like I said, we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So if you want to help me hit that goal, smash the shit out of that subscription button. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.